Hello, my name is Brittany Thompson. Today I'm going to discuss my Master's Project e-Portfolio for the University of Kansas Curriculum Instruction Online Graduate Program. I am an English Language Arts teacher from Wichita, Kansas. I teach high school, specifically 11th and 12th grade English. I'm currently in my 4th year of teaching. My first 3 years of teaching were at Rose Hill High School in Rose Hill, Kansas, and now I am teaching at Valley Center High School in Valley Center, Kansas. We are a one-to-one school district and are focused on using data to drive instructional decisions, especially through the joint efforts of various professional learning communities within the school. My e-portfolio details what I've learned and how I've grown as an educator over the course of the last 2 years in the curriculum and instruction program. While there are many areas I feel I have greatly increased my knowledge and skills, one in particular illustrates my growth as a professional. Area 6 revolves around assessments. The CAEP Standard is stated as candidates document using multiple measures, creating a supportive learning environment that contributes to an expected level of P through 12 student learning growth. I chose this standard to discuss for a few reasons. As stated previously, I feel as though I have immensely increased my knowledge in assessment in various ways to examine student learning growth and effective strategies. I believe student learning and their growth is the most important aspect of education, and data from assessments should be used to help guide curricular and instructional decisions. The artifacts I have selected for this standard are also some of the projects that have impacted me the most over the course of the program in multiple ways. Finally, data from various assessments is a very important aspect of my school district currently. The first artifact I chose was my Action Research Project for C&T 802 Curriculum Planning for Educational Settings. For this project, I had to design and implement a unit to examine the impact of an instructional strategy on student learning. The focus for my unit was to address the Common Core speaking and listening standards using TED Talks as an instructional strategy. I chose to address the speaking and listening standards because in my previous research in the course, I found there to be many strategies addressing reading and writing skills, but not as many for speaking and listening. In addition, I had previously identified the need to provide additional instruction on these skills with my accelerated junior English students, and was curious to see how TED Talks could improve their abilities as well as provide a level of motivation. The TED Talk served as a model for the speaking and listening skills present in the Common Core state standards. We watched multiple high-quality talks and analyzed them based on their effectiveness. The TED Talk premise itself also served as the pre- and post-assessment. Students were able to create a TED Talk based on the topic of their choosing, as long as it fit the basic premise of having an original idea. I had students create talks ranging from topics on community service and mission trips to how video games express art. When designing the unit, I devised assessments that not only measured student learning in regards to the Common Core state standards, but also student perception of their abilities throughout the unit. Here is the rubric I have devised for the pre- and post presentations. As you can see, I tied each criterion to specific Common Core standards and designed the rubric to assess their level towards accomplishing the standard. Student surveys and informal observations during practice activities were used to measure student perceptions of their own abilities, provide time to reflect on their specific goals, as well as an avenue for me to provide timely feedback during the unit itself. I implemented the unit in the spring of 2016 at Rose Hill High School. I focused my attention on teaching and modeling these skills for the students, as well as adjusting my original plan as needed. After the completion of the unit, I examined and analyzed the data from the pre- and post presentations as well as the feedback from the student surveys. The data analysis portion, I felt, was one of the most difficult portions of the process, but I found it to be extremely helpful. Here are some graphic representations of student growth throughout the unit. Overall, I deem the unit to be a success. Many students improved their skills in multiple areas, and the data collected reaffirmed my observations throughout the unit. The main takeaway for me from this project was the importance of ongoing and varied assessments throughout a unit, especially those tied to standards. Students were able to practice and focus on specific skills because of the mini assessments I conducted throughout the unit, and get feedback throughout the process rather than just after the final presentation. The data analysis was also extremely valuable and identified areas more clearly to improve on for future implementations of the unit. This assignment also helped prepare me for more data analysis that I do in my classroom today, and provided me with skills to create other Common Core State Standard aligned rubrics for different skills. The Action Research Project overall helped me to understand and apply the skills I learned in my coursework to a real unit, which helped deepen my understanding of the process itself and created a more lasting learning experience I can use in the future. My second artifact is the Capstone Project for C&T 801 Planning for School Improvement. This project also resulted in a great learning experience for me. For this particular project, I implemented the school improvement process based on the dynamic model and the 7 steps provided from Duke, Carr, and Sterrett in the School Improvement Handbook. I collected and analyzed data from 3 sources for Valley Center High School, more specifically with the high school English Language Arts. I chose to examine the district curriculum maps, state assessment data, and enrollment data. Through the analysis, I found the area of argument writing to be an area of need for the students, especially with the upper level classes. After identifying the need to address, I created SMART goals and researched effective strategies while considering the context and culture of the school itself. Then I created a systematic school improvement plan, where I outlined strategies as well as who would implement them when, as well as how to evaluate and potential barriers. While I did not have time to implement the improvement plan during the school year to assess its effectiveness, the process of creating one for my real school district created an opportunity for me to apply the concepts and processes we learned throughout the program. My inclusion of various research-based strategies ranging from writing across the curriculum to writing templates illustrates my proficiency to use multiple measures to evaluate student growth and create a supportive learning environment. I even created a teacher survey to collect further data on the learning environment and student needs, as well as a peer review observation form for teachers to use with the strategies proposed. The major takeaway for me with this artifact was the creation of SMART goals to assess the effectiveness of the school improvement plan. In fact, just this past month, I helped to create SMART goals for my department based on common assessment data. These are really effective in providing a target and focus for student assessment towards the goal. Also, with the requirement of student performance measures in my district, I feel more confident in developing these goals specifically for my students and tied to the data collected. In fact, my instruction has become more relevant and applicable to the students because I can analyze assessment data and create a systematic plan for supporting student learning. The last artifact I chose was a website I created for C&T 803, Differentiating Curriculum and Instruction. On the website, I provided lesson plans and reflections on 8 different instructional strategies ranging from literature circles to cubing. When creating the website, I had to utilize the concepts and discussions from the coursework to design lesson plans to not only provide examples of how to use the strategy, but also had to evaluate the strategy itself. One book that I specifically used was Thompson's How to Differentiate Instruction in Mixed Ability Classrooms. Here's an example of one of the lessons I created for literature circles on my website. This document can also be found linked on the website, where I also added a reflection where I evaluate the strategy itself and how it could be used in the classroom. I found this process to be challenging but completely worthwhile. By creating specific lesson plans tied to my content area and then providing an evaluation of how to know when the strategy was working, it required me to really understand each strategy and how it could be used in the classroom. This artifact also demonstrates my ability to differentiate activities and assessments for students with a variety of learning needs, ability levels, and interests. These strategies are ones that I use in my classroom frequently and often for the assessment of student learning throughout a unit. A major takeaway from this project for me was the fact that activities and assessments must be differentiated in order to meet the needs of the individual students in the classroom. It is through differentiating that we can truly create supportive learning environments. An example of how I utilize my skills gained from this project today is a recent project created for my seniors on Beowulf. While all the students were given the same task in order to illustrate their understanding of concepts from the unit, they had a choice on the final product. As you can see here, their performance task was a comparison dealing with hero traits, Beowulf, and aspects of the Anglo-Saxon culture. In fact, the addition of the graphic novel option from the options they could choose from was based on observations and data collected on the interests of my students with drawing and graphic design. A differentiated classroom is so important for today's students because they are so diverse, and I feel this artifact best represents how I can develop and utilize multiple measures to assess student learning and provide appropriate activities for the individual students based on the concepts and theories I learned in class. These artifacts greatly impacted my learning and application of concepts learned throughout multiple courses in the program and helped me to create appropriate assessments for my students, as well as evaluation tools for instructional strategies used in the classroom. Through these projects, I was able to apply my content area knowledge in English language arts, become a better researcher, and develop my skills in analyzing data. I feel these assignments have had the most impact on my teaching because I was able to put the theories into practice and design assessments specifically for the students in the content area. Professionally, my next steps will be to continue applying the strategies I learned in my classroom. I feel as though without the KU curriculum and instruction program, I would not be as equipped to provide my students with appropriate instructional strategies and adapt my instruction to help them grow as individuals. I also hope to become a resource for other professionals. I have the theoretical understanding of various educational theorists, but also the experience in applying these theories, which gives me a wealth of experience in order to help others. Finally, I would like to eventually step into a role of a curriculum and instruction coordinator or director, or a leader of professional development. The KU program has given me the tools to be successful in my classroom, as well as to be the resource for other professionals in the field. I hope to continue learning and researching current studies on how to provide the best education for the students sitting in my classroom. Thank you.